Welcome back, dear viewers, to Let's Play Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. I believe we left off with Sir TryOnceMore, Gargoyle Fighter of Ashinzari. I really don't remember what we were up to last night. I think we had some bees and, yeah, some pretty cool curses and whatnot. I was really tired by the end of it. I'm trying to shift my sleep schedule around a little bit. So let's see what we're up to here. Maces and Flails. Up to nearly 12, that's good. Armor at about 7, evocations. Okay. Seems pretty straightforward. Doesn't look like we branched out into too much. We've got this Book of Fire that could be useful at some point. I guess we were putting points into intelligence, even though we're wearing plate armor. That seems like a terrible choice. Let's wear this helmet that we're carrying around. Yeah, that's one of the dangers with Dungeon Crawl. If you're playing while you're tired or inebriated or otherwise distracted, things can go really poorly for you. Or you can just make decisions that will make it much more difficult to succeed later on. Like, I'm not really sure that following Ashinzari was the correct choice for our Gargoyle fighter. I get the feeling like I was really tired and I couldn't be bothered with identifying things. That seems logical. Well, here we found the entrance to the lair, just kind of hanging out. Usually it's heralded by a whole bunch of beasts, but we just kind of stumbled upon it here. There's a bat, I guess, just hanging out, you know. I guess Ashinzari is giving us giving us the heads up with the enhancement level of these sets of plate armor that we're wearing. I think we have a +2. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, AC 23 on dungeon. I guess we're on dungeon level 9, so it's not too terribly early, but yeah, AC 23 is pretty good. We don't have see invisible yet, but that's okay. Invisibility, you can attack monsters that are invisible if you can suss out where they are. Your accuracy goes way down because you can't see it. Same thing goes more or less is more or less the same for monsters' reaction to you while you are invisible and they cannot see invisible. One thing to note. One thing to be aware of when you're examining monsters and checking if they can see invisible or not, there are some monsters that can sense invisible, which is slightly less effective than see invisible. See invisible completely negates any penalties or bonuses that you may achieve from being invisible, whereas sense invisible just, I believe, gives them a better idea of where you are, kind of that silhouette circumstance. And, wow, this dungeon level is really kind of cool. It's, oh dear, it's wielding a ruined morning star. Well, this is certainly exciting. That gargoyle may be pretty tough for us. Doesn't seem to have noticed us, but I'm sure this parade of critters will give him some clue of what's going on. We're not really scared of scorpions, because we're immune to poison. Hooray! No poison. Wow, this crocodile is, Alright, well. Okay, well, he hadn't quite noticed us yet, so we're gonna duck around this corner. Well, there's other stuff. That was a poor corner to duck around. Let's back this up a little bit. Let's get an actual escape route. Running into the darkness is usually a bad idea in Crawl. Don't do it if you can help it. Just because if you don't know what's coming, you can't plan for it. And so much of this game is planning every chance you get. Okay. Well, let's just blow our wands on this guy. Boom! We beat him up. A cursed ruined morning star, huh? That probably just means it has a negative. But morning stars are so good. I'm gonna try it on. Yeah, that's too bad. I was hoping it would be cool. That was probably naive of me to think that it could be something worthwhile. We'll just go back to our flail, because -2 puts that at 11, +1 puts that at 11. Yeah, it's just strictly worse than our flail. And that's, again, too bad. But whatever, you know. That's the way the cookie crumbles. I had some really fantastic cookies yesterday. They were Oreos with icing on them. Like, completely covered in icing. Oh, this is cool. A scroll shop with a bunch of money surrounding it. That's neat. We actually have a decent amount of cash for where we are. Okay, so we have Scrolls of Immolation and a very expensive Scroll of Enchant Weapon 3. I don't care so much about that. I will go ahead and get the scroll... Well, potion shops are much better than scroll shops because potions are much more dangerous to read or to quaff ID than scrolls are to read ID. Yeah, I don't care so much about doing that. I think we might as well go ahead and read ID some of these scrolls. We're in a relatively safe place right now. Scroll of Noise. Yeah, Scroll of Immolation. See, we just read it. It was no big deal. We don't really care that much about Scrolls of Immolation. I sometimes like to carry one around if I'm not having too many inventory problems, because you can use it to set up some really neat chain explosions that can just, you know, they just gain you a level in one fell swoop because you've blown up half of a level. And that's really satisfying. The only problem is if you are next to these explosions when they go off, you are dead. You are just gone. So you have to be very tactical and very sure that you can land the finishing blow on something. I think is the main thing. Okay, well, here there be bees, I seem to recall. And the little shadow shows me. I think I may wander around this level for a little bit, see if I can't take some of those bees out. I feel like we're stronger now than when we first faced the bees. Okay, this electric eel, not the scariest, since we have resist electricity. That's really nice. I mean, resist poison and resist electricity are just two of those, because they're both binary resistances. When I say binary, I mean you either have it or you don't. It's either on or off. There's no gradation to the amount that you resist. So, for example, if you go to the Shift 5, the percentage sign screen, you can see that fire, cold, and negative energy all have multiple pips next to it. Wow, where are we getting resist cold? That's cool. Anyway, but resist poison and resist electric only have that one spot. It's either on or it's off. And so I think that gives you... With electricity, it's just a straight-up damage reduction, I believe, although I think you might be able to resist the effects entirely. With resist poison, it's something like a 90% chance to resist being poisoned, and that's just swell. I mean, you can still... well, I guess for us, it's even better than that. It's a 100% chance to not be poisoned, since we are straight up immune and not just resistant. Gargoyles are broken. I don't care what anybody says about them having reduced hit points. They're outstanding. And you know, if the game goes long enough, you can actually find ways to cope with the fact that you have a reduced number of hit points, because in theory the game is infinite because of Pandemonium. Pandemonium is a constantly generating... Wow, this is a lot of kobolds. Man, they're just kobolds stuffed into this room. It feels like every single space of this room at one point was filled with kobolds. That's just silly. Okay. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Pandemonium goes on forever. It's an infinitely generated dungeon. So you can, in theory, find any item you could ever want there. You can, you know, max out every single one of your skills in spite of all the aptitudes. You could do very silly stuff, but Pandemonium is quite dangerous. It's not a cakewalk, even for the most powerful of characters. So, yeah, and partly this is because the developers of this game, the Crawl devs, which I believe is a fairly wide and varied team. There are a lot of them. Ooh, Berserk Rage. That's not bad. We'll pick it up. The devs really wanted to discourage grinding or scumming, as it's sometimes called, repetitively doing the same thing in order to gain experience beyond what you would normally have at that point in the game. So, scouring each floor for items to sell to the shopkeepers doesn't work in this game because, ooh, a wand of teleportation, that's nice. It doesn't work in this game because the shopkeepers do not buy from you. They are these weird denizens of the dungeon that only sell things. They only care about gold. So that keeps you from having to try and pick up everything you see and make multiple runs back and forth from the shops. It's one of the reasons why this game is so fun is because you can't really completely waste your time. Like if you find a way to actually waste your time, you're trying really hard and you're probably not going to survive too long because you've got things like the hunger clock that keep on ticking for most races. Uh, a long time ago I did experiment for a little bit with mummies. Mummies do not have a hunger clock. They are undead. They do not experience hunger. And that makes them very powerful and versatile spellcasters because they can cast repeatedly. They can just spam spells that would make other characters, other races, far too hungry. So they have a little bit of an edge there. Unfortunately, mummies are also intrinsically vulnerable to fire, which is very common in this game and very deadly. So you have to stack up extra fire resistance. But more importantly, even than that, because you can find fire resistance just sort of lying around. Uh, More importantly, even than that, is that they cannot drink potions. They have no digestive tract. So that would just make them soggy. They gain no benefit from potions. And potions are really, really useful in this game. I don't know if you've noticed, but I am very cautious about. I virtually never test quaff a potion. The only one that I may do that with is a potion of curing if I get in a sticky situation involving poison or something. Um, Ring of Wizardry. That's kind of cool. Let's drop some of these random projectiles. I don't feel like at this point we're going to be using this sling. I think we're far enough along that we can safely ignore those. If we find a really cool sling at some point, I wouldn't be opposed to the idea of grabbing it. But like with this Ring of Wizardry, we can kind of experiment with, well, we're still in plate armor, so we can't cast spells. But if we find a good artifact armor of some sort, especially if it's like ring mail or even maybe scale mail, you can usually get to the point where you can cast first and second level spells with scale mail. Jeez, except we're finding plate armor like it's candy. I wish there was candy in this game. Anyway, if we find a good artifact rune mail, or even conceivably leather armor, we get a lot of armor class points from just being a gargoyle. So we can wear light armor reasonably well and get away with it, even as a fighter. Generally, fighters want heavier armor because you're always... I mean, if you're in melee range of a monster, it can hit you with anything it wants to. If you can hit it, it can hit you. Whereas spellcasters can play a much more cautious game of sort of approach and back away and approach and back away. I think we're resistant or immune to rotting. Immune to rotting, yeah. And I think rotting. I believe sickness is incorporated in the rotting category. I don't believe we can be sickened as a gargoyle. Blink frogs are so dangerous. They're just so dangerous. They can blink, obviously, as per their name. Yeah, as per their name. But when they blink away, they can bump into other monsters and alert them to your presence. They can suddenly blink from being far away to being next to you and swarming you all of a sudden. And they hit reasonably hard. They're not pushovers. Ooh. Is this an artifact ring? Oh, nice. Wizardry, strength +2 and dex +3. I kind of like that more than resist cold, actually. I don't think that there are going to be many cold-based monsters in the lair in which we have found ourselves. And you know, +2 strength, +3 dex, that's not bad. It's maybe not... Okay, that brought Firebrand down 99% failure. Well, can we memorize it? That's a good question. Do we want to... I mean, there's no reason not to, really. Yeah. Okay, so we memorized a spell successfully, which is very strange. That's kind of cute. Our charms and fire magic each have a 0.1 skill level currently because Ashinzari is boosting our magic skills since we have 2 bound pieces of jewelry, 2 cursed jewels. Clarity is great. Berserk Rage is also great. I think maybe once we get our evocations up to where that would be a low failure rate. Berserk Rage, with a 0 skill of evocations, has a 50% failure rate, which is far higher than you want any kind of failure rate to be in this game. Ooh, Wand of Lightning. Shurikens and Lightning. Okay, let's drop a couple of these ones that are empty. We don't need them. Level 11. Yeah, this game just feels so much easier as a gargoyle. Also, fighters are a decent background because they start off with a better than average weapon, so the first couple of levels of the dungeon are really easy. And I don't know, having a high armor class early on seems very good to me. It tends to fall off a little bit late game when more of the monsters have spells. Like liches. I think my last really successful character, I got him to the vaults, I believe. It was on the bottom layer of the vaults, and I thought I could take on a lich and something else. I don't even remember what the other thing was. It's probably insignificant, because the lich just nuked me down in about 3 spells. It was an ancient lich. I don't know if this version of Crawl has regular and ancient liches, or if it's ancient liches only. Regardless, they are very scary, and I highly recommend running from them unless you are super prepared to deal with multiple types of elemental damage and hostile enchantments. Elephant slugs, if you watched the last series of videos, I mentioned that they are also pretty embarrassing to die to, because they are also slow. They have a ton of hit points. So as a fighter, they're a little scarier because you have to be in melee range for the most part. But that's still really no excuse. At the very least, you can troll around the dungeon and pick up a whole bunch of darts and just pelt it to death with little projectiles, even if you have no throwing skill. Don't die to slugs, kids. One thing, one thing to note: never, ever, ever polymorph a slug or a worm. It's a great way to die an early death. And this is because slugs and worms, to make up for their glacial speed, have many more hit dice, that is, sort of monster levels, than other stuff that you would find on any particular level of the dungeon. I think an elephant slug has something like 20 hit dice, which you don't find until you're bumping into, I don't know, well, Realm of Zot level monsters. Like maybe gold dragons, I think, have 20 hit dice. I know regular dragons have, like fire dragons have something like 12 hit dice. So if you polymorph an elephant slug or a giant slug or a worm, chances are you will get something far more dangerous than what you originally tried to polymorph. Okay, so we're going to back up here a little bit. Oh, after we kill these critters. We're going to go back to dungeon level 2 and make our stash. Sorry, not dungeon level 2, lair level 2. Okay, this got a little hairier because that stupid centaur opened the darn door. I'm going to try and get to a better position here. This is the problem with Ashinzari, is that you don't have as many panic buttons as you do with some other gods. Okay, well, we enslaved the Hound. That gives us, yeah, much better odds in this fight. I don't know about this grizzly bear. No, we're fine. Okay, good. Alright, cool. Yeah, you have fewer panic buttons. Ashinzari doesn't have any, god ability panic buttons. What Ashinzari does is she helps you plan ahead. She's an excellent goddess, whatever, for planning for the future. Because you have so many things identified so early on, you don't have to waste scrolls of identification on them. And so you can use your scrolls. Like, I have 7 scrolls of identification. I'm just sort of chilling with... Ooh, a potion of beneficial mutation. That is yummy. Did we already find... Oh, yeah, we already found 2 potions of cure mutation. That's just outstanding. That's really cool. I'm tempted to... Now that we have... well, we still haven't found regular mutation. If we find regular mutation here on one of these, I may consider starting to test quaff. Yeah, there's mutation. Let's ditch some of these useless ones. Let's see. What do we not need? Oh, yeah, potion of paralysis is useless to us. We can drink this potion of beneficial mutation. That's... What do we get? We got a pair of horns. Okay. That's fine, I guess. I feel like it's pretty common with beneficial mutation that you get a body slot mutation. Body slot mutations, I use that reference, sort of tied to the demon spawn mutation set. Ooh. Ooh, that's nice. That's a great mace with an artifact brand. I mean, we already have resist electric, so that's not doing us any good. At level 14, we can fly permanently, so we don't really care about the flying. But it grants us magic resistance. It may... +8, +6. Yeah, that's pretty darn good. We're not using a shield anyway, because the best weapons in the game are two-handed. And while shields can be useful, and I may eventually go back to using one, we don't care about that right now. This does give us negative cold resistance, so if we need to, we can switch back to this other ring that gives us cold resistance to balance that out. But again, in the Lair, there really isn't anything that deals cold damage. I don't even think the ice beasts typically spawn here. Now, of course, we're further away from our min delay. Min delay is 10 points away from base attack delay, so we would need a Maces and Flails skill of 20 to max that out. So let's go ahead and turn off armor. It's at level 10. That's good. Level 10 is good. Obviously, this Firebrand spell isn't doing anything for us. We just kind of memorized it so that we have the option of funneling experience into, say, Fire Magic, if we want. Do I want to curse this mace? I kind of like it a lot. That's really powerful, because a Great Mace has a base damage of 17, plus 6 is 23. That's just huge. That's 15 more than our Flail of Crushing. Plus, against everything that isn't resistant to cold, Freeze is a strictly better brand. It deals damage based on... The additional damage it deals is based on the base damage of the weapon which it brands. So, the higher the base damage of the weapon, the more powerful the freezing effect is. And Crushing is just, like, up to an extra 30% damage, sometimes. It's not the worst, but we're gonna use this... I guess we can put that in our stash. Let's head back up to Lair level 1. And the reason why we head up to Lair level 1 and then to these stairs is I want to find which staircase is closest. Ah, die, snake. Haha. I want to find out which staircase is closest to the entrance to the lair, since we're making our stash. Okay, yeah. So it just to cut down on the overall distance that you have to fight. We'll destroy this fungus so we have a little more room to drop our stuff. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of, some of this stuff. Amnesia, we don't need right now. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these Scrolls of Curse stuff, just because cursing things on the fly is not always the best decision. We don't need 6 Scrolls of Fog. That's absurd. Let's get rid of 5 of them. Let's get rid of Scroll of Immolation for now. We have this Wand of Teleportation, but I have no idea how many charges it has left, so I'm going to drop 2 of these 3 teleportation scrolls. I assume that this wand has at least 1 charge left. You rarely find wands that only have 2 charges. They generally have more than that. This is not a hard and fast rule, but... so I may test quaff some of these. The reason why I say that is because Cure Mutation you don't want to accidentally test quaff because they're super rare. And... yes, I'm sure I'm feeling hungry. I still want to go to the temple and pick up those potions and transfer them to my stash. Potions of Cure Mutation are super rare, incredibly valuable later on. There are monsters such as Orbs of Fire. Orbs of Fire are the worst of them that I can think of. That malmutate you, that cause you great distress in a mutation manner. Just by attacking you. Their attacks mutate you. And there are certain areas of the dungeon where malmutation is an issue. And being able to cure those mutations, especially the worst of them, like if you mutate, I don't know, rotting or something, your flesh is constantly rotting away, your maximum hit points are constantly being drained. You need to get rid of that. You're not going to be a happy camper if you're, losing max hit points for no benefit. There are some times when you want to sacrifice max hit points, don't get me wrong. Bjorgnor's Revivification is I think 8th or 9th level necromancy spell that sacrifices a handful of your max hit points in exchange for completely refilling your current hit points, for returning you to full health. So it's a massive, massive panic button, which is really cool. It's really neat to have available. I think, on second thought, I think I'm going to go ahead and curse this mace. It's really good. It's really powerful, especially for this point in the game. Like, that's just a heck of a lot of damage. 23 damage. Wow. Wowzers. So we're going to curse it. Ashanzari really likes it when you curse two-handed weapons. Yeah, we get a bonus to our maces and flails skill that's reasonably significant. I think it was at, something like 15 before, so level and a half. That's really neat. Okay, so we have wizardry here on this ring. I kind of want to keep on this ring of protection from fire. We don't have another source of it yet, and I really like roaming around in the dungeon with Protect Fire. I feel like it's one of the most common forms of elemental damage, and it's certainly one of the most dangerous, particularly since scrolls burning can really throw a wrench in your plans. Even if it just burns up some of your identification scrolls, it's not so bad for us because we worship Ashanzari, but for many other classes, being unable to identify potions is a big hindrance, because you don't know if you're about to quaff a potion of Cure Mute or a potion of Degeneration, and that's just no fun. Anyway, as I was saying, oh yeah, let's move the potion of mutation over here, where it's sort of out of sight. I'm always tempted to drink potions of mutation. It just gives you 3 random mutations. But the thing with random mutations is that they're, on balance, bad. They are generally not beneficial mutations. They can be, but I tend to find that for every potion of mutation I drink, I get 1 good mutation and 2 bad mutations, and it's almost never worth it. The good mutation is almost always outweighed by the bad ones. Okay, yes, we want to keep this one for the business cold. We're not too worried about not being able to cast spells right now because we can't do that anyway in plate armor. Not without some serious points in the spell schools, which we may do at some point, depending on how far we get, depending on how powerful we get. I kind of want to keep all these wands just because we don't really have a good reusable source of ranged damage yet, like a rod or... yeah, mostly a rod is what I'm looking for. Those are pretty sweet. But we don't even really need ranged damage. It's really nice to have as a fighter type. I'm going to keep clarity on for now. There aren't too many things that confuse or enrage me in the lair, but I don't see a need to waste a scroll of remove curse and then put this on and then curse it to receive the benefit. I kind of want to get my piety up with Ashinsari, up to close to full if I can, so that I'm getting as much benefit from her skill boosts as I can. And also, we'll just go ahead and see if I can identify one more potion. Okay, Potion of Berserk Rage, cool. So if you drink a Potion of Berserk Rage, it overcomes the clarity effect. I don't know how it knows that you're choosing to do that instead of being forced to. But anyway, it's nice to have. Berserk Rage boosts your damage and your hit points and your speed, and maybe it gives you damage reduction. I don't know about that, but... Oh, wow. So, yeah, Maces and Flails just reached level 14. Ashinsari is giving us 2.5 additional skill levels for being bound by our Great Mace, which is just slaughtering things. This is going to be an easy layer, I feel. Now, I say that, I shouldn't get overconfident. I should still treat these yaks, for example, with a great deal of respect. Because, you know, this game does have a somewhat random element to it. I mean, there is technically RNG, random number generator, involved in some of these things, like how much damage is reduced, by how much your armor class reduces your damage on any individual hit. I mean, you know, your 2-hit, you're a lot of things depend on the dice roll, and the message I'm trying to get at here is not that Dungeon Crawl is very random, because although it can be, really it's less so than it seems. Because it's all about, as I think I mentioned earlier, planning. If you plan ahead and you have 25 armor class like we do on layer 3, yeah, there's still a chance that when we get hit by something, it's going to roll the minimum damage reduction, and we're going to get hit for a lot. But we have things to mitigate that. I mean, we have potions of curing stocked up, although I don't know. I'm not sure if we found Cure Wounds, actually, now that I think about it. Let's switch to Unrecognized here. Again, that's the / key. It's the key above Enter, and then you can press minus to switch to things you haven't seen yet. So we have not yet ID'd Potions of Heal Wounds. That's interesting. I feel like we may have... we may be light on those this game. Not that that is a pattern that will necessarily hold true. We may be flooded with them later on. But so this Potion of Decay, that's basically the only reason why I'm not test quaffing right now. Because these others, you know, like Potion of Experience, I don't mind. I definitely don't mind test quaffing. I'm going to drink one of those as soon as I find it anyway. These others are not particularly bad for us, but Decay automatically removes somewhere between 1 and 5 of your maximum hit points. And the only way to regain those, it's the same as if you rotted away some of your flesh. The only way to get those back is to drink a Potion of Curing or a Potion of Heal Wounds when you are at maximum health. And then it restores... I think Curing restores exactly one maximum hit point, and Cure Wounds restores 2. Maybe still only 1. It's a really bad deal. You have to burn a lot of resources. You know, you have to burn like 2 or 3 potions to make up for the effects of 1 Potion of Decay. And I have ended up... I've seen the end of a fight at 1 hit point frequently enough to know that every single one counts in this game. especially when you're calculating out maximum possible damage output of a monster. You know, if the max damage they can deal to you in one hit is 43, the difference between 43 and 44 hit points is incredibly relevant. So long story short, don't test quaff potions. You can test read scrolls. That's fine. Like, I'll do this one. Hey, scroll of acquirement. Neato. Scrolls of acquirement are fun. You can ask, I realized last video I didn't really explain scrolls of acquirement very well or at all. What they do is they give you one of these things that you can see down at the bottom of the screen. And they give you usually something that's not too bad. Sometimes it's awesome, mostly it's decent, sometimes it's mediocre. And the rule of thumb in Crawl is always acquire armor, AAA, AAA. And I think that holds true for us here. Scrolls of acquirement, as similarly to God Gifts, are weighted towards skills that you have points in. So if you have a lot of points in armor, you are more likely to get heavy armor than light armor. It also will never give you something you cannot use, so it will no longer give us a helmet, for example, since we have horns now from our Potion of Beneficial Mutation. We'll probably get boots. We don't have boots yet. Boots or gloves, and they probably won't be great, but considering we don't have boots or gloves yet, I think that's still a reasonable choice. We have a great weapon, so we don't need to go for weapon. We have decent jewelry. I mean, we have a couple of artifact rings, even though they're not the most stellar artifacts. They're still good. We just got another ring. Yeah, books. We're not a spellcaster yet, necessarily, so we don't want a book. Staff, same thing. Wand is actually a reasonable choice. I think I'm not going to do it this time, but if later on I find another Scroll of Acquirement, I may get a wand. And my reasoning is this. Scrolls of Acquirement are biased towards giving you wands that you have not yet identified, and they tend to lean towards the more powerful end of the scale. So we have not identified wands of fire or frost. Fire or... I think it's... No, it's not frost, it's ice, maybe. Fire and ice. Anyway, the bolt-type fire and ice spells that are very powerful, they travel through enemies. They hit all enemies in a line, which is really nice. Similar to lightning, although they don't bounce except off of green crystal walls. Lightning bounces off of most any wall. There are a few other, like, offensively oriented wands that we haven't identified, but mostly what we're looking for is to identify a whole bunch of wands, and then later on ask for a wand and hope that we get a wand of heal wounds, because wands of heal wounds are awesome. They usually start off with 5 charges or so, 4 or 5 charges, and that's like 4 or 5 potions of heal wounds, except with the notable exception that their efficacy increases with your evocation skill, whereas potions are static. So wands of heal wounds are really great for us later on, since I plan on training some evocations. Miscellaneous is like tchotchkes, like evocable items that are not wands. So you can occasionally get like a rod, maybe, although that might be part of staff, the staff category, staves. I'm not sure. Anyway, but you can get like Disc of Storms or Box of Beasts or Sack of Spiders, those kinds of things. Food, if you're starving, that's a perfectly reasonable choice. Gold, if you found a shop that carries just a bonkers artifact that costs an arm and a leg. Or if you're trying to enter a ziggurat, assuming that there's still a gold requirement, a gold cost for those. And I think maybe some treasure troves still require gold, although I think mostly it's items, like bring me 3 scrolls of acquirement, or 17 potions of cure wounds, or whatever. And then ammunition, if you're a hunter or something and you're out of bolts, that's a reasonable choice. But we're going to go for armor. Yes, we did indeed get gloves. We have a cursed pair of gloves of strength. So let's try these on. Yeah, okay, +1 pair of gloves of strength. Because we're worshipping Ashnzari and we have a lot of cursed stuff already, I think that includes those factors in its algorithm. So this is kind of cool. I mean, they're not anything to write home about. +3 strength is meh. But it's kind of useful, especially since we're wielding a great mace now, which I think is something like a 90% skew towards strength. Like, for for every 10 stat points between strength and dexterity that give you damage, 9 of them come from strength and 1 of them comes from dexterity. Um, I'm just checking the weighting here. Yeah, it's 90%. The only things that have a heavier strength weighting than a great mace are giant clubs and giant spiked clubs, which can only be wielded by ogres or other large races, and I think executioner's axes, maybe. Anyway, we're going to get a lot of benefit out of the fact that we are very strong as far as the damage of this weapon is concerned. You'll notice I'm not really giving anything much respect. Okay, a 5-headed Hydra. That could be interesting. We're at least going to sort of kite it back to this doorway here. I think we're fine, especially since Hydras are reptilian, and when you're using a weapon with a brand of freezing against something reptilian, or any kind of cold attack, it has a chance to slow them down because they are cold-blooded, and they're not good at dealing with the cold. And so we slowed them down just by hitting them in the face. And the same thing with that Basilisk. You can tell by the little hourglass in the corner. Okay, we're in a little bit of danger here. This is kind of scary, but I'm really not too worried. We're so strong right now. Yeah, we're just mowing through these things, which is really fun. Gargoyle fighters, guys, are just nutter butters. Figure out our food situation here. Yeah, I'm even being incautious. This is hubris. I'm at least going to heal up to maximum health before I continue exploring. That I don't. Oh, hey, the shoals. That's just super. We'll go with intelligence again. Yeah, we even got a point of strength for being level 12, multiple of 4. Because I mean, spellcast. Like I really can't stress enough. Okay, let's try and take care of some of these harpies, clear them out. The reason why I poked my head in the shoals is for exactly this kind of reason. Just to see what we're dealing with right off the bat, which apparently is harpies and hippogriffs. And also the reason why I didn't just immediately back out is because when I return there, even if it's sometime later, those harpies might all be clustered around the entrance, and that's slightly harder to deal with than when they're a turn away from clustering around the entrance. So let's try on this ring. Don't know what it is. That's fine. Try out this scroll. Enchant weapon 2. Well. It can't... We can't actually enchant this weapon. It's an artifact. So I think all that would do is remove the curse. Yes, that's sad. We really are going to abort and waste the scroll. Because I don't want the Great Mace to be uncursed. I don't want to have to get another scroll of curse weapon by praying over a scroll of remove curse and hoping that it turns into that. So that's too bad. Wasted one of those. But, you know, the best weapons in the game are going to be artifacts anyway. We don't really care all that much. The only time that would be relevant... Ooh. Oh, well that's... So earlier I was talking about artifact armors, like artifact ring mails. I think... Maybe it was in the last video, maybe it was this video. I don't know. And this is a reasonable ring mail if we're wanting to cast spells. The thing is, like, I really don't like that accuracy reduction since we're using this Great Mace now. Granted, we have a +8 to our accuracy. So it's currently a +4. It'd be down to a +2 off of our accuracy. And our Maces and Flail skill is really good. You could tell I'm kind of trying to talk myself into wearing this armor. Part of the reason is that it gives us a resist negative energy pip, which would put us at 2, which is great. It makes us very resistant to random undead and necromancers and such. On the downside, we're going to lose... Let's see. Well, that would be 6 total armor rating versus 12. We would lose 6 armor class. So we'd be down to 23. That's still not bad. That's not terrible. And our evasion would go up significantly. We would never have to put another... Yeah, I've talked myself into it. I'm gonna try it out for a little while. Do we want to uncurse anything else while we're at it? I don't think so. I think we're fine with what we have. So yeah, 29 and 7. Yes, I really do want to wear it. To 20 and 10, yeah. So, we lost more than I thought. I guess because our armor skill was boosting the armor rating here from this plate armor. We lost 9 armor class. We gained 3 evasion. What about these spells? Well, we can cast spells, that's for sure. Are we wearing... Yeah, I guess we are wearing wizardry. Tell you what, let's head back to our stash. We'll stash this plate armor. We'll try out this ring mail for a little bit, because I've been feeling really strong anyway. You'll notice I've been sort of cackling at how powerful I am as this gargoyle fighter. And that's not a great way for me to be playing, really. It's kind of fun to see me run around and slaughter everything in my path, but it's not safe. It's not a good way to play, because there's always something that can kill you in Crawl. No matter how much armor you've stacked up, something can paralyze you and just beat away at you until you die. Or they'll use fire or ice, which cuts straight through your armor class and roasts and or freezes you in your tracks. Yeah, so let's see what these other spells are looking like. Fireball still 100% failure rate. Let's memorize it though. Because Fireball is a very, very good spell. Ooh, we can even memorize Delayed Fireball, but we won't be able to cast that for years. That's a level 7 spell. Delayed Fireball just lets you keep a Fireball in your pocket so that it doesn't take a turn to cast. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. It doesn't take mana points either. Right. So let's go ahead. Let's turn off evocations, because that's at level 10. That's pretty good. Let's try out conjurations. We do have a bonus to learning conjurations. Let's unfocus maces and flails. And Ashen'Zari is going to help us out with our spellcasting skills a little bit. It won't help us with Firebrand. Let's turn on conjurations and fire magic. Let's go wild and crazy here. And see if we can't get Fireball to the point where it's castable. Because the ring mail has a very low... Yeah, it has an encumbrance rating of 7. We may end up going back to heavier armor later on. I am certainly not ruling that out. Oh, I am also going to make a waypoint, which I forgot to do earlier. Okay. Alright. We may go back to heavier armor later, particularly if we find something cool like crystal plate armor, which is the... it has the highest armor class rating and the largest guaranteed damage reduction of any armor in the game. Guaranteed damage reduction, I believe I mentioned in my last series of videos, but I'll mention again here. Guaranteed damage reduction is something, it's an additional stat that all armors possess. And the heavier the armor, the higher its guaranteed damage reduction. Okay, 7-headed Hydra. We should be fine. We'll drink a potion or something if we need to. Okay, yeah, that last hit was a little bit... Well, I guess we only have 64 hit points. I thought we had more than that, and that it could one-shot us down from 30 hit points, but I think we were fine. You'll notice we did take more damage in that fight than we did against the last Hydra. Our armor class is significantly lower, as is our guaranteed damage reduction, which I was talking about. Guaranteed damage reduction is a percentage of the damage on incoming hits that you suffer that is, well, guaranteed to be removed. Your damage taken is guaranteed to be reduced by that amount for wearing these armors. So, for example, let's see, guaranteed damage reduction. Our ring mail that we're wearing right now, has 24% GDR. So a quarter of all damage we take is guaranteed to go away. Up to a maximum of the armor class. Well, the maximum armor class or the guaranteed damage reduction, whichever is greater. is the maximum reduction. Whereas plate armor, like what we were using before, has a 39% guaranteed damage reduction. So 15% more damage is reduced. Crystal plate armor, what we would love to see someday, not only has a base armor class of 14 instead of 10 for plate armor or 5 for ring mail, but it has a guaranteed damage reduction of 48%. Half of the damage you take goes away. If we find crystal plate armor, we will probably abandon the whole spellcasting thing and never go back. It has a massive encumbrance rating. It's 24 encumbrance rating, which compared to plate armor, I guess plate armor is 19, but still, you're never casting a spell in crystal plate armor short of obscene amounts of skill points put into those spell schools. And you'd almost definitely have to wear a Ring of Wizardry. You basically have to invest a lot of resources that could be better spent elsewhere in order to cast spells with crystal plate. However, I've only ever seen crystal plate armor a small handful of times in this game, because it's so powerful and because you don't even really have access to it. The dungeon isn't going to generate it above above really low levels of the dungeon, or high levels, depending on how you want to think about it. Deep, deep, deep in the dungeon, let's say. Ooh, Layer 5, Death Yaks. Well, that's saucy. Spellbook there, too, which is kind of cool. We're going to try and pull up a Death Yak with us, along with this Crocodile. We're going to move a couple of spots. Oh, well, haha. Death Yak comes up, Death Yak goes down. Yeah, so you see we suffered some damage there, traipsing around. How's our... Cool. Yeah, Ashen's is great. She's boosting our maces and flails up. Something like 3 levels now. And that's pretty nuts. I'm going very carefully through this water, because we move more slowly in water. At least for the next 2 levels before we gain the ability to fly continuously. Alright, yeah, so we're doing alright, and as you can see, like because the early skill levels require so little experience, our fire magic and conjurations are going up rapidly. Our fireball's already at 71%. I imagine when conjurations and fire magic reach around, well, level 5 or so, this will get down to something almost castable, and then level 7. So we're going to stair dance a little bit here. We're actually really beating up on these Death Yaks, but I don't want to fight more than 2 at once. Respect the Yaks, especially the Death Yaks. They are very brutal. They hurt a lot. They deal a lot of damage. Let's go back to this other staircase. They mostly migrated over the one we were standing at. They deal a lot of damage. They are fairly fast. I don't think they're faster than you, but they are certainly as fast. You cannot escape them easily. And especially in conjunction with other monsters, they are quite dangerous. Let's eat some clean flesh instead of contaminated. Go back to this other staircase. Like, it's kind of convenient that we have these 2 staircases that are nearby each other on both. Ooh, wow, that crocodile. Crocodiles are more dangerous than water, kids. If you didn't know. Yeah, I'm not concerned about these sheep. They're not going to do really any damage to us, even with her now reduced armor class. These blink frogs, though. God, I hate blink frogs. Fortunately, freezing brand is cool against blink frogs. There are some enemies that are vulnerable to fire. I mean, ice type things. I just feel like fire is you're less likely to find things that are vulnerable to fire than are somehow vulnerable to cold. This stops being true in the deepest levels of the dungeon. Book of Control, what is that? Oh, interesting. Control Teleport is kind of cool. It lets you control your next teleport or blink, at the cost of some magical contamination and at the cost of the teleport taking longer to trigger. So that's something to keep in mind for later. We're not going to be doing it anytime soon. See, we already have big chunk of change in Conjurations and Fire Magic, partly because Ashinzari is boosting our skill because we have 2 of our 3 jewelry slots cursed. I might even go ahead and curse that at some point. I don't know. What's it down to? Yeah, down to 32%. Yeah, we could totally cast spells. We can cast spells. Do I sound like I'm convincing myself? Because I kind of am. Okay, there's that Death Yak. I think there were 2 remaining from that pack. Yep, there's the other one. Yep. Just bash him down. No problem. No problem at all. +0 leather, armor of fire resistance. I don't think we're quite so desperate as to go for leather armor. I am... I'm going to turn on dodging. Trickle some points into that. Yeah, because our maces and flails is almost at min delay for this great mace, thanks to Ashinzari helping us out. We'll probably go ahead and boost it up to where it's naturally at level 20, just in case we want to uncurse it at some point and therefore lose those skill levels. But we'll be at min delay at 20 skill points in maces and flails. We will be at min delay for all maces and flails type weapons that we ever use, which is nice. Evening Stars are the other excellent mace flail. It's similar to a Morning Star, but strictly better. It has a higher base damage for, I think, the same accuracy reduction. And it's something like 15 damage. The reason why Evening Stars are cool is because they're one-handed. If we decide eventually to go the shield route, which is looking less and less likely, especially now that we're casting spells. Shields are not great for spells. Ooh, we can detect items now. We have magic mapping passive. Yeah, Ashinzari is just cool. Very good utility god. I don't recommend her the first time you play through Dungeon Crawl, because it kind of helps to already know what some things are. We will eat this Hydra. But for your second playthrough, or, you know, for once you've managed to get sort of to the layer consistently, is a good spot to start playing around with Ashinzari. Just so you can see, like, with what frequency cursed items are dropped, and with what frequency pluses and minuses appear. So this is the first Ocklob plant that I've encountered in a while. They're super annoying. They just spew acid at you constantly. Very deadly acid. That's why this whole area is travel excluded, because the Ocklob plant can't move. It's a plant. Huh. I don't have any sort of resist corrosion or resist acid, so I guess that... Oh, ow. No, no. There are 2 Ocklob plants. That's horrible. Horrifying. 3 Ocklob plants. Wow. Ocklobs are us. No, we don't want to travel into the travel excluded area. The reason why I'm kind of skirting this exclusion zone is to make sure that, well, there aren't more than 3 of those evil things there. Do we have... We do have a scroll of cursed jewelry. I think... Ooh, a black mamba. Black mambas are really dangerous even if you are immune to poison. They're meanies. They're very, very fast. Their bite is pretty powerful. Ah, the snake pit. No, it's the black mamba. I wouldn't be surprised if there are more. Nope, just some nagas. I feel like we will probably do the snake pit as our first branch. The last character I took into the snake pit died horribly to some shock serpents, which are new to the snake pit in 0.14. What is that? +2 chainmail of cold resistance. Okay, we'll remember that that's there. No need to take it with us. Yeah, I died to a shock serpent. It was really bad. I don't even think I had resist electricity. I thought I could take on this single shock serpent. Or maybe I was running away and I had no choice. Anyway, there may be a ghost of a powerful demon spawn fighter in there. 4 Oclops. 5 Oclops. We are just probably never going to bother with that area. I don't think there are any items in there that we need, so I feel no need to go after that scroll of amnesia. Anyway, I died with that last guy to a shock serpent. We have resist electricity as a gargoyle this time, which is really nice. Easy. So easy. I say easy. He could have... The fight could have easily gone the exact opposite way if it had hit us a bunch of times, and we had failed to hit it just a couple of times. But, decks of cards. Maybe I'll mess with those later. Not a big fan. At least not unless you're worshipping Nemelex Zobe. I always say it like that. I don't know why. She's wielding Scimitar of Holy Wrath. That'd be worrisome if we were Demon Spawn, but we're not. The only thing we're really vulnerable to... Oh, yikes. Wow. Let's try berserking on her. We're too hungry to go berserk. Well, that's bad. Drink a potion of haste. Ooh, wow. So we're 1 hit from dead, she's 1 hit from dead. If I had heal wounds identified, I would drink one of those. As it is, I'm going to roll the dice. I really shouldn't. There's probably a safer way to get out of this situation. Actually, yes, there is a guaranteed way to get out of this situation, and that is to use the Scroll of Blinking. I think that's smarter than hitting her one more time and seeing if I kill her before she kills me. That seems like a really bad idea. Even though we would probably get to hit first. Yeah, let's blink away. And let's not be stupid about this. There's no reason why we need to die here. No reason whatsoever. Okay. Probably could have run even. Yeah, we managed to kill her with our next hit. That's fine. You know, we used some resources. We used a blank scroll, a couple of potions of curing, a few charges off our Wand of Disintegration, and our Wand of Frost. That's a small price to pay for getting to continue with our dungeon crawl. +5, +3. Yeah, that's why she was hitting us so frequently and so hard. Wow, this video has reached an hour long. I think that's a good place to end it. There's still there's maybe a little bit of mystery as to whether we survive the fight with Maud. That might, that might entice people to watching straight through to the end. But yeah, we'll just get back to our stash, and I'll end the video here so I can do some stash work off camera, and I'll see you next time.